Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It has been a little bit since the last video. Honestly, I've been meaning to do this psychic tier list for Nuzlocke for a little while after I got the request from someone in the comments. And honestly, I kind of just kept looking at this list. So I went ahead. I just go and grab all the psychic types, and I put them all together. And I look at it, and I was just like, I have to think about them all, and try to rank them. And I was just so stumped on this one compared to fire and fighting. I don't know why for a while, but today we're gonna do it. So let's go through it. So a quick recap on this format that I do. I basically look at all of the psychic types, all the Pokemon of this type, any Pokemon that can be a psychic type. So we also have Pokemon like Silvally. This is assuming that it's psychic type, and other Pokemon like unknowns here because it is a psychic type. Is there any other example like that? I guess not really. Or Choreo because it becomes a psychic type. We also go all the way up to Legends Arceus Pokemon. So any Pokemon that's a psychic type, we take a look at them, how good they are in a Nuzlocke format, and instead of looking at all their specific games, which I usually do, kind of just in a vacuum, depending on what, like, things can change by what games you get them. But this is saying whether you're playing a randomizer or a ROM hack. How good are they on their vanilla forms? Because ROM hacks change things, so I'm not going to talk about what ROM hacks might change in things. Just their vanilla forms, how good they might be on any given playthrough at all, and talk about how good they are. So let's go through it. I've also got Kadabra here as Trait Evolution. I don't think there's another Trait Evolution I have. If I'm missing one, let me know in the comments. But for general, I guess, talking point, most Trait Evolutions are just like slightly worse, like a tier lower than their normal evolutions, than their evolution. So Kadabra, for example, is going in the A tier. It's still very fast. It is very fast and it's very strong. Offensive psychic types are great early game. Psychic is a weird type, I think, because it only hits two types super effectively, poison and fighting, although both of those, there is always a fighting type specialist in every game, whether it's a gym leader or an Elite Four member. There's always one. There is always a fighting type specialist. And poison is very commonly used by the enemy teams, but also so is dark. So psychic's kind of hit or miss against enemy teams. It's just like for like Zubats and stuff that your enemies, that the enemy gang or whatever usually always has. But from level 16, you hit really hard. You've got a great level up learn set with things like recover, disable, screens on this thing. I mean, being as squishy as it is, recovery is awesome, and it just hits very hard. It's got like 120 attack or something like that, right? It's very strong. And Alakazam is an S tier. It's one of the most offensive. It's one of the best offensive Pokemon you'll ever get in any Nuzlocke. And you can get it so early with depending on how you can trade. So let's say you're there. I guess there's two different scenarios. Sorry for my stutter. Two different scenarios on how you're able to trade. One is either you are emulating a game, and let's say you have Impossible Evolutions turned on from the Universal Pokemon Randomizer and evolves at level 37. Then you have a later game Psychic type that's just amazing stats and playing through. But if you're playing a more recent Pokemon game where you can actually trade, you can have this thing at level 16. You can have a level 16 Alakazam that just completely blows through any game you're ever playing, and it's a complete monster. I actually did consider it to be the Galaxy Brain pick there for that option, but it's not in this one scenario. I actually don't even know who it is yet. I'm gonna pick at the end of the video. Once I got everyone in their spots, I'll pick who I think is the absolute best. And I guess I'll go over the tier names. So I've got Galaxy Brain, which is, I think, the best psychic type in Nuzlocke, period. S tier, which is exquisite. A, brilliant. B for intelligent. C for smart. And D for impressive in other categories, meaning not very good. Slowbro is another S tier. Water Psychic is really crazy coverage because Psychic allows you to hit the grass types that threaten you, because a lot of grass types are water poison or grass poison, and just like the coverage is really crazy. Bolt, Psychic, and Ice Beam is really good coverage on its own, and it can learn things like Flamethrower, and he's just a super crazy tank. It's really hard to to kill your Snorlax or your Slowbro. The thing's so tanky. It offers great damage output with something like Calm Mind. It can set up and be really scary. In ROM hacks like Emerald Kaizo, it's ridiculous, but that's because it gets like shell armor and stuff. But even without that, it's still just fantastic as just a bulky pivot Pokemon that can also deal damage. Like that archetype, bulky Pokemon that can do damage are really like the best thing you can get in a Nuzlocke. So, something that can take a hit and deal some good damage back is the best thing you can ask for in a Nuzlocke. So Hypno in like Fire Red Leaf Green is an S tier, but that's because Kanto, the psychic type, is just so ridiculous. I think outside of pretty much every other game, I still think Hypno's pretty solid. It's really especially bulky. It doesn't hit too hard though, but it does have a decent attack stat, and I think it's got a really interesting supported moveset. It can learn things like Thunder Wave and Headbutt, so you can do Paralyze and Flinch, and still gets things like Hypnosis. It's kind of more of a defensive psychic types, of which I think there's better. So it honestly could go down into C tier. I really just haven't used it outside of Fire Red Leaf Green, so it's kind of a harder thing to think about. Like, is it really? I mean, compared to other psychic types, I think honestly defensive psychic types are better because there's a lot of really interesting utility psychic type moves like Screens and Trick Room that all of these guys are going to be able to learn. And even interesting things like Skill Swap, Wonder Room, Power Trick. There's some really interesting things that some psychic types can do. And I think just being a bulky, especially bulky screen setter, Trick Room setter, status spreader is very useful. But I think I will actually throw it down in Smart. And just because as I think of some other Pokemon, I think it's probably more underwhelming compared to other psychic types, so I'll keep it here. Exeggutor. I think Grass Psychic is also strong coverage. This thing in Sun is fantastic. It's the fastest. It's essentially the fastest and most accurate psychic type with sleep option because it has a sleep powder instead of hypnosis, meaning you can actually run things like Sleep Powder Dream Eater and be a very tanky psychic type. You could be like a tanky psychic type, tanky grass type, put things to sleep. You also have chlorophyll, so you're raising your speed and firing off very strong stab solar beams, which is kind of touching into the grass type of it. But I think this Pokemon's really good. I don't know if it's quite S tier because you do have a lot of weaknesses. I mean, Quad Weakness to Bug is a little scary. You'd have a lot of. I just think the typing is so interesting and so unique. You're one of the most interesting grass types you can get in any run, and also just a psychic typing. I feel like you kind of kill two birds with one stone if you want a grass type and you want a psychic type on your team. Being able to cover both and just do some very interesting things with fast sleep powder and the psychic type utilities it gives you. I just think it's so useful. I really just do think it's so useful, and it's pretty bulky. It's got some decent bulk to it, and you can have things like Giga Drain to heal yourself. Starmie is the first Pokemon I'm looking at putting in Galaxy Brain. Water Psychic type it's offensive, but Water Psychic, and it can learn Thunderbolts. So you have Surf, Psychic, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt is a ridiculous amount of coverage. It gets things like Recover. It's actually pretty decently bulky, and with Recover, it's just bulky, and it can take a lot of hits. It's kind of the same thing as I was saying with Exeggutor and Slowbro. Killing two birds with one stone, covering your Water type on your team, which you're always gonna want, and having a Psychic type on the team, which is kind of nice. It's such a crazy offensive Pokemon that can also still be pretty defensive if you want to. I think it's just so flexible and so good always. Like, it's always so good. The only thing that might keep it away from Galaxy Brain is you always get this thing late. Like, pretty late in the game, which is a bummer. Mr. Mime, I am going to throw. I think I want to throw an A tier for its support, but I think A tier is going to get crowded later, so I'm going to keep it in B tier. I think the support that Mime can give you, with an amazing ability like Filter, means it just takes less damage, and I think it's one of the best screen setter Pokemon ever. And screens are really good, especially if a Pokemon that can set it both. Is really good. It gets things like Baton Pass sometimes, Barrier to raise its defense. So it's just a crazy support Pokemon, and still has usable usable special stats. And it gets like things like Fake Out, Magical Leaf for coverage. You can learn like Thunderbolt for coverage. I think it's a very well-rounded psychic type, And it really depends on how good the psychic typing is in that region, but I feel like it's just reliable. You get it at pretty decent points in most games, like usually in the mid point of each game. I'm not going to talk about the size type Mr. Mime. I've got Mr. Rime coming later, which is the evolution, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Jinx. So Ice Psychic. Jinx is another Pokemon that, like, when I first think of it, I always think of it as like S tier because of Fire Leaf Green, how crazy good it is. But in other generations, I mean, still just Ice and Ice Beam and Psychic is such good coverage. And you have Lovely Kiss, which is basically Sleep Powder. So I guess Exeggutor is not the only one with super accurate, or I guess super accurate sleeping moves. 75 over like the 60 that Hypnosis is. So I think just offensively, just Stab Ice Beam is really interesting. It's pretty fast too, so I can definitely get away with just trying to sweep through things. But you got to be careful using this thing. It's not tanky at all. It's gonna get one shot by things that just have any kind of coverage to hit it, even just neutrally. Like a strong neutral stab will probably take out Jinx. It's super squishy, but it can be really nice offensively. Just Ice Beam, like Stab Ice Beam and Stab Psychic together is such a strong combo. You just hit so many different things for so hard. But I gotta throw it in the B tier. I think I like Mime a little bit better just because it's easier to throw on a team. Like Mr. Mime's kind of like the final glue you could put on a team, while Jinx you kind of have to. I think you kind of have to set this role for it more, if that makes sense. Zatu's going to be, I think, the first D tier. It's going to be the first D tier pick because not that Zatu is bad, not that D tier is like horrible. I just don't think it's really worth using. It's not very fast. It's not that fast. It's not that offensively threatening. I don't think Psychic Flying is really good at all. I don't think you cover anything by being a flying type. Like, you already resist fighting, so whoop-de-doo. I mean, now you're resist bug, but like, whoop-de-doo. You're weak to rock and ice and electric, and I think it's just not. And it's not defensively. I don't like the typing. I don't like the stat layout. I don't think it's like that offensively good. Like, Stab Flying and Stab Psychic doesn't really give you anything. I think it's kind of just a waste, honestly. I don't think this thing does anything that other Psychic types can do better. Like a Mr. Mime is going to be just as, if not better, offensively than like a Zatu is, and I just think it's kind of sad. Espeon is basically Alakazam. It's like a discount Alakazam, so I'm gonna put it in the A tier above Kadabra. Like, if you have an Espeon and if you have Kadabra, I mean, obviously the Espeon's gonna be better for you, but you don't get it as early as Kadabra. Depends. Sometimes you get early. Sometimes you get Eevee pretty early, and you can basically get Espeon as soon as you get the Eevee. You just gotta grind Friendship out, which is a drag, but it's just a discount Alakazam, although it doesn't have as good of a moveset. You don't have things like Recover, Disable, so it's definitely more limited. So I guess there is actually a reason to use Kadabra over Espeon, so I think I like them together and keep them in the A tier. I feel like it's a solid spot for them to be. Let's see. Slowking. I like Slowbro more. I just like Slowbro more. I think being physically bulky is better than being specially bulky because of Calm Mind. Like, you can patch up your special defense with Amnesia and Calm Mind. You can't really patch up your physical defense. I guess you have Curse, but I mean, I can't put this thing away from Slow. I think Slowbro's better, but I can't put this thing outside of S tier. I think Water Psychic type's just so good. Pokemon is still just so bulky, and so yeah, everything I said about Slowbro, just like a little bit worse. Unknown, I gotta put a separate tier. This thing is an actual it's an actual letter. Like, this thing, it has hidden power and that's it. It's really not a real Pokemon in a Nuzlocke. If you ever get this thing, I'm sorry. Yeah. Wobbuffet. Wobbuffet is a funny one for me to rank because it's both really fantastic and really mediocre at the same time. So Wobbuffet basically, with Shadow Tag, and it only has access to moves that do no damage but retaliate back. So you have mirror coat and counter. So and you have things like Encore and Destiny Bond to kind of, you know, patch up the fact in case they have coverage moves. So this thing basically is designed to beat any one single Pokemon, but it can't do anything more than that. However, it does beat pretty much every one Pokemon, unless there's some, it can't beat everything, you know. It could be like whittled down, it could be taunted, it can still just be like one shot by something really, really strong. It's super effective. But the fact that it can 1v1 pretty much anything scary is so good. I think of like Pokemon Emerald, Juan's Kingdra is a really scary Pokemon, but I mean, Wobbuffet can kind of just take care of that thing for you, which is pretty interesting. Which is something to note. It's something really important to note. So I think I want to throw this thing in its 1v1 potential. It's obviously S tier, but I think its usefulness on a team, it's kind of hard to fill. It's kind of like an emergency answer, so I'm gonna end up throwing it just in A tier, because it's kind of a weird role to fill, but it does do that role very well. It's an enigma. I could almost put this thing in a different tier, but I'm not going to. Girafarig, I think, is a super solid B tier. The normal typing, given the ghost immunity, is great, and it's also got some decent offensive stats to kind of capitalize on that and be a ghost killer, because it learns things like Crunch. It's one of the best baton passers, I think, ever, because it can get agility and Calm Mind, which is just crazy. It's just super crazy. So it's being one of the best baton passers. I think I'm gonna throw it actually above Mr. Mime at the top of B tier. It's not the most impressive on its own, but it can just definitely set up the team. And even like, you can agility, Calm Mind, do a bunch of damage yourself with like Crunch or a stab psychic or a stab normal type move, something. And then once you're getting lower on health, you baton pass out and then pass to something else, and then that thing goes on a tear. And it's so good. Baton Pass is a crazy move and just enables things to be really good. Gardevoir is the top of A tier. I think I'm gonna leave this thing at the top of A tier, and I don't think anything's gonna get any higher than it. Gardevoir learns Calm Mind really early. It's kind of a somewhat of equivalent of Alakazam, although I don't think it's quite as good. It's a little bit more specially bulky, but without things like Recover, it's not as bulky. However, it does get Wish in like Generation 4 and stuff. So you can be like Calm Mind Wish setup, which is ridiculous. It hits very hard. It's still actually pretty decently fast. I just don't think it's quite as scary as like Alakazam, but it's a very, very, very prominent Psychic type, and eventually it gains the Fairy typing too, which is just so good. So good. Psychic Fairy typing is really, really strong, because you cover the poison type that scares away Fairy, and Fairy scares away the dark types for you, so all you're really worried about is Steel, which no Psychic type handles Steel. Literally like 2 Psychic types handle Steel types, so whatever. You know, I'm not gonna dock that against you. Yeah, Psychic Fairy is really, really good. I'm gonna keep it top of A tier, not quite S tier. I don't quite want to throw it S tier. I might actually pull Exeggutor down too. I think I will. Leave these guys on S tier. But yeah, it's super fantastic. It's always a good Pokemon. Medicham hits like a truck. This thing is a fantastic fighting type. It's a good Psychic type. You get Elemental Punch coverage. However, it's not that bulky and it's not that fast. So it's kind of like a glass cannon. It really is. But it's like a weirder glass cannon. I feel like it's a glass cannon that can't like patch its weaknesses up as much as Alakazam can, because Alakazam's so fast and also has like Recover. So it's like a weirder glass cannon. However, if you're playing a game with like Choice Band, then oh my lord, this Pokemon hits stupid hard. This Pokemon just hits you like it can hit like a freight train because of pure power. And it's definitely notable. I don't want to put it S tier though. I think it's a little bit too flawed to be S tier. Grumpig is sadly another D tier Pokemon. I never think this thing's never doing anything impressive, really, ever. Like, Thick Fat is cool. Thick Fat is neat, I guess. It's never anything more than neat. This thing's stats just are not that impressive. I don't think it's like as bulky as like Hypno is. Like some people are probably thinking, you know, like, well, Grumpig and Hypno probably aren't that different. I feel like Hypno's just got a way bigger special defense stat and has things like Headbutt, which just gives it a little bit more to me than Grumpig does. It's just got a little bit more than Grumpig does and Xatu does, so I'm gonna throw it here. Solrock and Lunatone are Pokemon I really like these Pokemon. So Psychic Rock is really interesting, and they have Levitate, so you're not weak to ground. You are not weak to your Rock type does not weak to ground because you have Levitate. Your Rock type is not weak to fighting because you're a Psychic type. You are a Psychic type that's not weak to Bug because you're Rock. So there's a lot of things you kind of cover there. It's just super unique typing, super unique typing. They don't evolve, which is great. Just like, I mean, Jinx and Mime, they don't always evolve unless you have like Mimian, the baby Pokemon or whatever. They don't evolve. Things don't evolve, and that's really good. Same with Girafarig. But this thing's pretty tanky. It's got decent speed. It can learn Ice Beam too, which is awesome. A rock type and a Psychic type that can learn Ice Beam. So like in later generations, you got like Power Gem, Psychic, Ice Beam, Calm Mind, or Cosmic Power. They learn Cosmic Power, which is awesome. I think these Pokemon just have a lot going for them. I think they're both really good. Solrock, same thing. I think Lunatone's a better Psychic type of the two, while Solrock is a better Rock type with like Rock Slide and stuff. But they're both just great. I think they're both just great. They learn interesting coverage moves. Typing is just so unique and can really help you out. And Claydol, I don't think is quite as good as they are. It's pretty much related to these guys. It's a levitating ground, which is close to Rock, which is kind of similar to Rock and Psychic type, but I don't think it's quite as good as they are. However, Claydol still is a great wall. It still can be a nice utility Psychic type, and I mean Stab Earthquake is great. And this thing has 2 immunities, immune to electric and immune to ground, which is really awesome to have in one. I mean, just that pairing together is really cool. Yeah, I don't think it's quite as good as Solrock and Lunatone. I feel like they're still about as good defensively and offer a little bit more offensively. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's a very solid Pokemon all around. I can't really say much more than that. I think it's very solid. It's very fine, I guess. Chimecho it's C tier because it learns screens by level up. Both screens by level up, and it has things like Refresh, which is cool. Refresh and Safeguard, which is cool. So like it's just that is the only reason it's C tier. Honestly, C tier and D tier could be the same thing. I might end up grouping this together. I want to see how things go with some more of the Pokemon, but it's not far off. I just think learning screens by level up is the only thing that puts it above the ones in D tier. Metagross. I mean, this thing's a pseudo legendary. This thing's a monster. It's a Steel Psychic. Like, I'm not gonna talk about Metagross. I'm not gonna try to explain why Metagross is an S tier. The only reason I'm not immediately throwing it in Galaxy Brain is because this thing comes stupid late. Like, no matter what game you're playing, if you could even get it, it comes stupid late most of the time. Unless you're playing a randomizer. And then, like, if you're playing a randomizer, Beldum and Metang actually suck. They actually are really bad. Their movesets are horrible. Really bad. But once you're a Metagross, like, holy crap. So it's S tier. It's not the Galaxy Brain pick. Like, right now, I think Starmie's above it. Honestly, I think Alakazam is above it. It's weird to say. It feels weird. It feels weird to say, but Metagross is still a monster. Bronzong is another S tier. It's Metagross is the super offensive Steel Psychic type. Bronzong is the super defensive Steel and Psychic type. It has Levitate, so it can have Levitate, so it can only have one weakness. In Generation 4 and 5, but Generation 6 you regain your weakness, or I guess you gain the weakness to Ghost and Dark because Steel no longer resists those, so you gain a little bit more weaknesses. But like Generation 4, Generation 5, this thing has one weakness, which is either Ground or Fire, depending on what ability it has. Access to things like it can learn Sunny Day and Rain Dance by level up, which is really crazy. and Trick Room and Screens and Gyro Ball, so it can deal some good damage. Extra Sensory is a great level up move. That it learns really early, which is just super good. It's a super solid Pokemon. It's really, really bulky. It's really reliable. You usually have it at a pretty good point, like kind of a mid to early game point of most of your games, and it's great. Gallade. I think Gallade is a little bit better than Medicham because it has Swords Dance. They both have bulk up, but Gallade can have Swords Dance, and while it has all the elemental coverage, it has all the coverage that Medicham has. It also has Night Slash and Leaf Blade, so it has just one ups it by a little bit on the coverage department, and also Swords Dance, so it can be a little bit more destructive than it. It's the same speed stat, and it also is just bulkier on the special side. Defense, it's a little bit more frail, but it just has way better special defense. Obviously, it has a Mega, but I don't count Megas because Megas are all just broken. All Megas are broken. Yeah, but I think it's just a slightly better Psychic fighting type, which is a nice niche. It's a very nice niche to have. It covers your fighting type, which you want on a team most of the time, and just great coverage. Musharna is all right. In the Unova games, Psychic type's really bad, so it's kind of hampered by that. I don't think it's really that much more special than other Psychic types, but stat-wise, it's a little bit more impressive than like these guys down here, so I'm going to throw it into C tier and call it good. Swoobat, this thing's horrible. Without Simple, this thing is horrible. With Simple, this thing is fantastic. Yeah, with Simple, this thing is fantastic. Like A tier, because Simple Calm Mind is ridiculous, but without it, it's horrible. It's actually horrible. Like, it's so frail, it's so weak, it's so bleh. So I've got Zen Mode Darmanitan here, which is so awkward to use because you have to have your Darmanitan go below a half health, which is it's just scary because it's frail. But then it turns into this like tankier fire psychic type, which is so interesting and so weird. So, but I'm gonna rank this thing high because if you have this thing, you have a Darmanitan, and a Darmanitan is a ridiculously strong physical fighter or physical fire type, but it's also just awkward because you have to run like 2 movesets for it and 2 moves because you have to have your physical moveset for the physical Darmanitan, and if you're going for a Zen Mode Darmanitan, I guess you could just pre-herd it, but then you're running with a Pokemon that's not at full HP. You know, I think it's too awkward to use. I'm gonna throw it on the B tier. I think it's just too awkward to be that good. But I mean, you do have a Darmanitan on your team. If you have this, you have a Darmanitan. Darmanitan's really strong offensive Pokemon. The Zen mode form is it's weird. You have to be at half HP. I mean, you can heal yourself, but like you're forced to heal yourself. You know, it's weird. I think it's just so awkward. I'm gonna put it here in the B tier and call it good. Sigilyph is Sigilyph, I think is what we're calling it. Sigilyph it's a nice B tier. It's got some cool support like Tailwind. Obviously I don't like Psychic Flying, but I think it's just got some cool support like Tailwind and Screens, and it doesn't evolve, so it's pretty alright stat wise when you get it. I just think it's like a more useful Pokemon. I want to put it C tier. I think it's a little bit better than that. I think B tier is a nice spot for it. Gothitelle in competitive is awesome, but in other games it's not. Its stats just really are not that impressive. Shadow Tag really doesn't matter in Nuzlocke because AI doesn't switch that much. And yeah, AI never really switches, so you're just better with other abilities, and like Frisk is okay, I guess. Sure. It's just a very underwhelming Psychic type, but I guess it's better than like these guys. Reuniclus is either the top of C tier or the bottom of B, only because this thing hits stupid hard. And Duosion, actually, I think Duosion is better than Reuniclus because they both get Recover, and Duosion can have the Eviolite and be tankier than Reuniclus and still have the exact same special attack stat of like 125. So this thing offensively is No, I'm not gonna quite put it in A tier. Just barely not quite. I am gonna throw at the top of B tier. I think this thing offensively could be really good. Some nice coverage. If someone if you in the comments say it's A tier, I will disagree with you. Kind of thing. Like I'm gonna throw it in the B tier. Just what I'm kind of thinking. I feel like it's a B. I feel like it's more B tier. Then these. I feel like these A tiers are maybe a little bit more impressive. Maybe not Espeon actually. Let me like do this. I guess. I could, yeah. I can't put in the A tier. But if someone were to if you guys were to say, no, I think Reuniclus is A tier, I'm not gonna say, oh no, you're wrong. I'm gonna be like, yeah, that's fine. Behem. It's just like another random psychic type that's like not unique at all. And so C tier. Delphox. Fire psychic is interesting. You're one of the only psychic types that can fight steel types, like the fighting is steel types, or the fighting is psychic types, which is cool. You're great offensively. I think you're a great starter. Honestly, I think it's just a great starter. The fire type starter is always good. The psychic typing is very interesting. You just cover a lot of things. You're gonna cover fighting. You're a fire type that covers fighting types, which is cool. You smack every kind of grass type that's known to man. You a fire type that can hit poison types is also pretty interesting. I think it's great. I'm going to put it in the A tier. I think this thing is it's great. Yeah, I like it a lot. Meowstic is... Does this thing get anything that I'm missing? I need to like, does this thing get Prankster? If this thing, I can't remember if this thing has Prankster or not. If it does have Prankster, it's hidden ability. Okay. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. If you could have Prankster, then this thing would be like A tier, if not S tier. Other than that, without Prankster, it's a very painfully average psychic type. It's kind of weak, actually. It's very weak. Yeah, I'm gonna throw in the C tier. It's super weak. I don't think that Kenai Infiltrator. Yeah, no, C tier. Prankster, like, woo, but without it, down here. Malamar, Dark and Psychic. Does this thing have Contrary, or is that hidden ability? Gen 6 is kind of a big make or break. It can have Contrary as a normal ability, and you have Contrary superpower. Not till late, but still. That's super good. Plus, the dark typing is really cool. I think this thing could just be it can be really strong. You can, Contrary intimidates. That's not always. I guess its stats are pretty unimpressive without it, and you don't get superpower till late. So I'll throw it in the B tier. I'll throw it, like, here. Yeah. That feels good. That feels good. Contrary's superpower is crazy good, but that, like, outside of that, I guess, it's not the best. So that feels fine. Topsy-Turvy is a really cool move, though, too. Raichu. Alolan Raichu. Psychic Electric is very interesting typing. And its ability Surge Surfer, double its speed, is pointless, in my opinion, because you're already so fast. You're already, what, 110? Yeah, Alolan Raichu is 110. So you're just a Raichu that has Stab Psychic, which is cool. And I think that's... I mean, being able to cover... I'm going to put the A tier solely because Psychic and Electric... Psychic and Thunderbolt coverage, both being Stab, is great coverage. And a lot of times you're gonna want Electric type, and having a Psychic type, even if you don't necessarily need the Psychic type on your team, just having that there is nice. And Raichu alone is just a good Pokemon. Just Raichu alone is a very solid Pokemon with things like Thunder Wave, and now you've got screens, and you've got nasty plot setup. Yeah, I think this thing is excellent. Yeah, I think this thing's excellent. I mean, you can do like Surge Surfer Electro Ball, I guess. Set up Electric Tame and Electric Terrain, and you're like, what, double speed, and then you Electro Ball? That can do some great damage too. Yeah, that's cool. Does it get rising voltage later? I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. And Generation 8, I'm sure this thing gets rising voltage. Yeah. I'm gonna throw this thing in the A tier. I think I'll put it like put Delphox and this thing together around here. That feels pretty good. This is Oricorio. I don't care. I don't care about this thing. A Rangaroo, a psychic normal type that's more defensive compared to Girafarig. It's really cool. It can learn a move that's what is it called? It's like Encore. I guess that's more for doubles. Yeah, never mind that comment. What is that move? What is it called? Instruct. That makes you do. Yeah, I guess it's more of a doubles move. As a Nuzlocke Pokemon, this thing's bulky. It's like a Mr. Mime. Yeah, this thing's like a Mr. Mime that's not weak to Ghost. But Mr. Mime does turn into a fairy type at that point. So I'm gonna throw it next to Mr. Mime. It's like if you can get these two in the same run, it's like I think Mr. Mime's usually gonna be a little bit better, but if you need one that's not weak to Ghost, woohoo! If you need one that's not weak to Dark, woohoo! Yeah, it's very similarly built to that. Silvally was pretty much always gonna be an A tier for every type it is because it's just gonna have like perfect coverage. You have amazing physical stab with your move. What is the move called? Its signature move. Let me pull this up. But just all the coverage you get from being Silvally and the 95 in every stat, you can build this thing. It's bulky, it's fast, it hits hard. Like it covers everything. Multi-attack, which is super strong. It's 120 base. You have a 120 base power stab. That's awesome. You've got crazy coverage with like Crunch, X-Scissor. You've got Tri-Attack. You get things like all of the Elemental Fangs, Iron Head. Yeah, absolutely amazing Pokemon. You even get Parting Shot late in Sword and Shield. Yeah, I can't put this thing anywhere else but A tier in every list always. Let's see, Bruxish. This ugly thing. Bruxish. This ugly thing. It does have Strong Jaw and Dazzling. What stops priority? That doesn't really matter. That's kind of niche. So Dazzling's a pretty niche ability. It could be okay. A Water Psychic type, 105 attack. That's not bad. This thing seems pretty okay with Strong Jaw. But like what? Also, what generation is this thing introduced? It's Gen 7, okay. I actually completely forgot. This thing just weird. Strong Jaw. Does it learn good Strong Jaw moves? You get Psychic Fangs. Okay, so Strong Jaw, Psychic Fangs, Strong Jaw, Crunch. Solid. Disable. It's pretty solid. I could throw this thing B tier, I guess. Water Psychic's great cover. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we can get Bulk Up too. Ooh. I like that. Swords Dance. Yeah, this thing seems pretty. This thing seems pretty alright. I like it. I dig it. I'll throw it in the B tier. Here we go. Orbeetle. I think this thing's cool. I think Bug Psychic is really interesting typing. It's a wall that's fast. It's a great support Pokemon. You can give it Trick Room. You can give it things like Struggle Bug to lower special attack, U-turn, stab U-turn. So it can. I think it's like the best screen setter Pokemon. It can learn screen. It can like reflect light screen, and then you can U-turn out, and just have like a perfect little combo right there, and then still do like stab Psychic or something like that. Yeah. So I just think it's the best screen setter, and I think I'm gonna throw it. Not an A tier. I'm gonna put a B tier above these kind of others. Like these are kind of screen setters in my opinion right here. I'm gonna throw it like here. This Darmanitan, I'm gonna. I kind of want to throw it B tier or C tier. Honestly, it's just such an awkward Pokemon to use. Yeah, super. I'll throw it here. That's fine. Hatterene is a Gardevoir. Basically, this thing is a slow Gardevoir, and it's. I feel like it hits so hard. It's so bulky. Isn't an ability something really cool? Healer or Anticipation. Oh, it could have Magic Bounce, but hidden ability. Okay, so Healer is not great. 42 evolution. Okay, it's a little awkward. But this thing is so bulky, and that 136 attack, special attack, is awesome. Even the 90 physical attack is not bad. It's definitely usable. Amazing typing. You get life too. That's funny. I don't think I can put this thing any lower than A tier. Let's put it right next to Gardevoir. Right next to Gardevoir. This thing's amazing. It's so hard. It's super bulky. Honestly, nah, not quite Gardevoir tier. Because Gardevoir is just faster and has like Wish. That's like it. That's the only reason Gardevoir is better than Hatterene. This Rapidash form, another one of the many Psychic Fairy types. Which kind of got old, honestly. I think there's just too many. With Mr. Mime and Gardevoir and Hatterene, and I guess then what? Just four, I guess. I don't know why it feels old, but it felt a little bit old. Pastel Veil cannot be affected by poison. Okay, whatever. that's kind of nice, I guess. And then Runaway is okay. But you do get things like Mega Horn. Stat wise, are you the same as Rapidash? Same thing. Okay, so you're decently fast, decently strong, not crazy stat wise. And as for coverage, you do get Mega Horn, which is nice. You don't get good fairy. You don't get Play Rough. So you're a bad fairy type, and you have to relearn Psycho Cut? This thing is lacking. This thing's lacking. Sorry, Rapidash, but I'm going to put you in Smart. I think you're still a Psychic Fairy type, so I'll put you like here, but like, eh. Alright, Mr. Rime. But not spelled like Rhyme. Because whatever. Ice Psychic. So this thing is definitely better than Jinx. It's an immediate better than Jinx. Screen Cleaner. Is sent out the effects of light screen end. That's super niche. So Screen Cleaner, when this Pokemon is sent out, the effects of light screen reflect in Aurora Veil. And on both sides of the field. That could honestly, I mean, you can very easily just not set up screens on your side. Yet, at least. And I guess you could take down in case the enemy trainer has set up screens ever. That's super niche. And then Tangled Feet is not good. Not that good. You get confused and things have their accuracy cut in half. Sure, whatever. So ability-wise, lacking, but Ice Psychic is cool, but it's not even as fast as Jinx. So I think it's a little bit bulkier. Honestly, I think I lied, actually. I think I like Jinx more than this thing. I think I lied. It doesn't get Slack Off, which is really crazy. And you'll have things like, I mean, I guess you're this thing's weird. This thing's super weird. You're still Mr. Mime, but you have worse typing than this Mr. Mime, and you're Jinx. I'm gonna do this. I think normal Mr. Mime is better than Mr. Rime, and I think Mr. Rime is. Okay. Here's how it is. I think normal Mr. Mime is better than Mr. Rime at being at like the screens and being the more support Pokemon with Encore and stuff. And I think Jinx is better at just being the more offensive thing. But Mr. Rime can do both. And that is a value. So I'm going to put it right here. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'll do that. I'll put it up. No, I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to leave it right here in the middle of these two. That feels fine to me. That feels good to me. Both of the Indeedys without Psychic Surge, I don't think either of them are that good. They are normal Psychic type, which is cool. Both have either have Synchronize, and then the male Indeedee has Inner Focus, or the female one has own Tempo. Neither of them are really that impressive. I think I'm gonna put them both in just Smart. I think being normal type and not being immune to Ghost is enough to keep him out of D tier, honestly. And they have Encore. Encore's great. Yeah, they go here. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, they'll be C tier. All right, Galarian Slowbro and Galarian Slowking. Poison Psychic. These things are interesting. They are in, you know, Crown Tundra and Isle of Armor, so they are available in like a Sword and Shield Nuzlocke, in case you want to do Psychic, which actually kind of sounds cool. I might do a Psychic Nuzlocke of Sword and Shield after I do Bug 1 of that. Let me just look up. Let me just remind myself the weakness chart of Psychic and Poison. Oh, the stats are actually way different than Slowbro too. You're still pretty bulky and you've got decent attack and special attack, but they're not really good either. It's not like super good. You're kind of just like a well-rounded block, almost like Silvally, but slow. Poison and Psychic. Poison and Psychic. So you have 3 weaknesses. Okay. Ground, Ghost, Dark. And Shell Sidearm. So you're a Psychic type that's able to snipe fairies. That's pretty cool. So offensively, you're very solid. You do have Slack Off. You do still get Surf. So you still get the water coverage. You have Curse. You still have everything of the other Slowbros. But do I think Poison and Psychic is enough to keep you with those two? Oh, let me look at the abilities as well. So Galarian Slowbro can have Quick Draw. And Quick Draw is just a built-in Quick Claw. Does it stack with Quick Claw? I think it can stack. Separate from the probability of a held. Okay, so it doesn't stack, but you can run a Quick Draw and Quick Claw, and just have 2 different rolls to see if you attack first. Is what it sounds like. So you kind of patch up your speed. That's really cool on Galarian Slowbro. Yeah, I really like that on Galarian Slowbro. But for Slowking, Galarian Slowking, I don't. What does he have? He has Curious Medicine, which stats of ally Pokemon are reset to 0. Okay, so that's only for doubles, so ignore that. So basically it doesn't have the ability. And Galarian Slowbro, Galarian Slowking, sorry, has... Oh, it's just a super special tank. Okay, so 110 special attack, 110 special defense. I kind of like this stat spread more, but I like Galarian Slowbro and the Quick Draw ability just better. And this thing can have Power Gem. That's actually really cool. Okay, so they both have cool coverage. They both still have everything like Slack Off and Calm Mind and Amnesia and Curse that the other Slowbros have. I think their typing is a little bit worse. I don't see the need. So I see you always want a water type. So Slowbro and Slowking, these two are so much easier to fit on a team, but you don't really always need a poison type. And I feel like they're a little bit hard to fit on a team. So I'm gonna very confidently throw them exactly below this, and I think this same order right here. They're still very good. They still seem very, very good. I gotta use them. Actually, I gotta use them in a Psychic Nuzlocke. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do a Psychic Nuzlocke of Sword and Shield. Actually, I think I might do that above my Bug one. Honestly, that sounds pretty cool. But yeah, I think Quick Draw. I like this. I think that the typing is very unique and very interesting. It's just not as like easy to slap on a team as like this is, you know, or like a fairy type kind of thing. All right, on to Legends Arceus. This Braviary, I've already talked about Psychic Flying. Defiant is nothing. Sheer Force is great though. Sheer Force means this thing can do a lot of damage. However, abilities aren't actually a thing in a Legends Arceus. So unless you're playing, if you're playing like a ROM hack with this thing can do a lot of damage. But without that, you don't have Sheer Force to do a lot of damage. So you're kind of just and you come super late in the game. So I'm gonna put it in C tier. It can still hit pretty hard. While Weirdeer is it's a very nice normal Psychic type. And you get Psy Shield Bash, which can raise your defense, and in Legends Arceus, maybe not Girafarig, not Girafarig because Girafarig has the Baton Pass going for it. I'll put it like here, I guess. When abilities come back, it's gonna have Intimidate, which is awesome. I actually think this thing's gonna be super cool and competitive. But in a Nuzlocke, which right now is basically just kind of restricted to Legends Arceus, you still get it early. You get Stantler early, and you just gotta use Psy Shield Bash a couple times to evolve it. So you can get this thing pretty early. Normal Psychic is pretty good typing, as we've established. It's pretty nice offensively. It's got an okay speed stat, and then it's got decent defenses. It's like pretty well rounded. I think it's okay. I think it's a very okay Pokemon. It's a very okay normal Psychic type. And that's gonna do it for the sidekicks. All the sidekicks. All right, Galaxy Brain. This is a hard one. Honestly, this is a hard pick. I feel like it was so much easier for fighting. It was super easy because it's obviously Lilligant. And for fire, I think it was Arcanine. I can't actually remember who I picked for fire. If I picked one for fire, I might not have done it. But for psychic, so the candidates for me, the main candidate for me is Starmie. However, the one issue against the one thing pulling me away from Starmie is the fact that you usually don't get it till so late. But it's still so amazing when you get it, and I never, yeah. So the way I usually rank my tier list is I always base the Pokemon on it. It doesn't necessarily matter when you get it, but when you get it in terms of availability. I don't really take availability into consideration. If when you gain the Pokemon, is it really, really useful for the rest of the game? And Starmie is a resounding fantastic, always. Resounding, yes, always fantastic. It's a crazy good Pokemon. It's basically always fitting on your teams for things. It's so good. It's so fast. It can hit really hard. It's got such amazing coverage. I think this thing has the best coverage, and not just offensive, but also having things like recover and even like camouflage for some cheeky stuff. I think it's got the best one of the best coverage out of like any Pokemon ever. Honestly, it's got to be one of the best Nuzlocke Pokemon of all time. And it's gonna be the Galaxy Brain pick for me. I don't think Alakazam is just too squishy and could be a little bit hard to use for that reason. Slowbro's is not quite as impressive, and Metagross is really not good until it's Metagross. Bronzong, it's good but not as crazy. Yeah, I gotta give it to Starmie. I think Starmie is the best Psychic type, mainly because the Water typing and the Ice Beam. And why is it a Water type that can learn Thunderbolt? It doesn't make any sense. But this thing it's the pick. It's the pick for this. Anyways, thanks for tuning in for this, guys. Let me know what type you want me to cover next, and stay tuned for other content coming from the channel. I know it's a little bit slower now just because, there's other things going on with my life. I'm going to be moving soon. Work has been a little bit busier. I've just got other things going on. I'm playing multiverses and stuff. So anyways, let me know what your favorite Psychic type is. I think my favorite Psychic type, looking from this list, is obviously my favorite Pokemon ever, Gallade. So that's an easy pick for me. Let me know your favorite Psychic type in the comments below. And I'm going to do a Psychic type Nuzlocke of Sword and Shield. Pokemon Sword, because I have Sword. That sounds like a lot of fun. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. Love y'all. Peace.